Hey everybody, Sully Man back again. Today we're going to be working with the Pathfinder, and what the Pathfinder is, it allows you to subtract and add shapes together. You know, you can take pieces of one shape and subtract it from another shape, thus creating a completely new shape. So let's go ahead and get started, and I'm going to go ahead and open up my Pathfinder tab, and I'm actually going to grab the tab, drag it out so it stays persistently on screen for you guys. So I created a few layers to kind of get us started, and what you see in here is my end goal with these. I want to create a dumbbell. So you can create a dumbbell like this. You know, if you want to keep the line art, I could take this object, arrange it by sending it back all the way to the back, and you get a dumbbell that way. But I'm looking more for a merged dumbbell, so I'm going to bring that back. And I'm going to show you a couple things. So in the Pathfinder you have shape modes and you have Pathfinders. Pathfinders are a little more destructive than shape modes, meaning once you select one of these options, it's permanent. Whereas with the shape modes, you can have it permanent or you could have it as a compound path, but depending on the complexity of your artwork, you might not want to use these, but these ones allow you some extra options, which are pretty neat, so we'll go through those. So with these two objects, I'm going to show you something. There's two, within shape mode, you have the same looking icon, almost same looking icon. You have merge and you have unite. And the difference with these is one's going to keep appearance, one's not. And I'll show you right now how that works. So say I want to take these two shapes, merge them into one shape together, which I click and highlight all three. I'm going to go ahead and use the Pathfinder merge. I'll show you what happens. And what it does, it's just dealing with the actual paths themselves, not the appearances. So you can see the stroke was eliminated, but it did merge it into one shape. So I'd have to go back and add that stroke if I wanted to. So I click on my stroke, add the stroke in, and boost it back up. So that can kind of waste you some time. Whereas with the shape mode, you're going to see I'm going to click all three, and I'm going to hit unite. And it keeps the appearance as well as unites the paths. Now the extra option, I'm going to go ahead and hit undo. I'll go to edit, undo, or Control Z, shortcut, Command Z on Mac. With this here, you'll notice if I hover over, it says in parentheses Alt click to create a compound shape. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to hold down Alt before I click, and now I can click. You're going to see once I click off, you can see it's merged it, but it's also kept the paths, so it's non-destructive. You'll be able to go back later and tweak things if you wanted to. So let me go ahead and stretch this out. You'll notice it's still kind of creating a new shape, so it leaves you a lot of options, you know, in creating new shapes. So that's the difference between shape modes and Pathfinders. With shapes, you keep appearances, along with the option to create compound paths, which you can later edit. You know, they're pretty versatile. So if on the fly, you can use the Pathfinder for permanent changes, whereas with shape modes, you can kind of go back if you want to. Okay, so that's the first two out of these modes. So shape modes, you have a unite and a merge. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these, open up the new layer, and we'll run through right now a majority of the Pathfinder modes with these two shapes here. So you can do some pretty cool stuff, and what I'm going to do here, I'm going to close this color option window, and what I'm going to do with these two shapes, I'm going to highlight, and up here you'll notice I have some distribution and alignment options. I'm going to go ahead and align these two objects both, and you can select the mode if you want it to align to the two selections, to the key object, or to the artboard. I'm going to go with the selection. So I have these two selected. I want them to be horizontally aligned together. So I'm going to go ahead and click that, and you'll see that it does that, and then I'll do it vertically as well. So they're nice and centered on each other. And I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and do, actually, I'm going to move this over before we do that. I'm going to go ahead and copy this object. So with this selected, I'm going to hold down Alt, click and drag, and that'll actually create the object again. So let's go ahead and run through this now. So with the Pathfinders, I have a divide option, and you can kind of tell within the icon what the actual button's going to do. So a divide's going to create new shapes, individual shapes at all these. So I'm going to go ahead and click the divide. And once you use one of these shape modes, it's going to automatically group those objects together. So you're going to have to ungroup them to be able to move stuff around individually. So I'm going to go ahead and click ungroup. So now these should be ungrouped, and as you can see, I can individually select each of these. So if I wanted to, move these out and expand them, right now I'm holding Shift and clicking each one as I go, so they'll stay selected. You can see that I can move them out and create some pretty interesting stuff. Just like with these red ones, I can go in and, say if I just wanted to select this one side and expand those out, I could do that. But that's the divide. What it actually did was took the top shape and kept it the way it was. But what it did, it was created new paths as they intersected each other, which you can still see it trimmed the polygon shape, the octagon, away from the top shape, but kept the paths there. So that's the divide. So if you want to use that option. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this and click and drag this back over here. Whoops, get them both. Make sure I get them both. Alt, click and drag. And let's go through it. So now notice, this is just one solid shape. We haven't done anything. But if I select both, you're going to see where that divide would happen. So this time we're going to go ahead and use trim. And what that does, it's going to use the topmost object and trim it from the backmost object. So I'm going to go ahead and ungroup using the shortcut. And if you'll notice, I'll move this away, and it actually trimmed out. So you have your own cool little shape. If you're kind of building some logos and want to do something cool like that, you can do that. So that's trim. So trim is using the topmost object. Okay, let's move on to the next one. I'm going to go ahead and delete both of these. Select both, Alt, hold down Alt, click and then drag it over to create a new working object. And we'll go ahead, we'll hit merge on this one. And merge, it's basically going to do the same thing as trim. But I already went over that. The reason why is because the appearances are different. So I'm going to go ahead and ungroup and show you what happened. Did the same thing as trim, but now I'm going to show you what happens when you take this top object. I have it selected. You can see that I have the green selected. I'm going to head over to my eyedropper and eyedrop the same color as the background object. You can still see the paths, selecting each individual one. I'm going to select both. I'm going to hit merge this time. Now you can see it actually merged it into one continuous shape. You see I can zoom in here, or actually I'll turn it into a stroke. You can see there's no intersections that happened when I did the initial merge with two separate colors. So the appearance, the fill color, allowed them to subtract from each other, whereas if they're the same, they're going to merge into one object. So that's merge. Let's go ahead and select these two again. I'm going to click and drag them out. Now this here, what you're going to see is it's going to crop out from the top object. So I'm going to go ahead and click this, and you'll see what it's doing is leaving the top object, but it's trimming from both. So it's what's happening is you're getting the combination of both and what's left over. And what's left over is the top object, creating almost like a cog. This one's a little sloppy because we're using an octagon, but that's what crop does. So again, play around with these things and see what they do. Just like if I go ahead and move this object to the back, what do you think is going to happen? Hit crop, it's still going to do the same thing. It's just a combination of both, leaving you that top object. So let's see here. We'll move on to outline, and this is pretty much going to do exactly what you think it does. When I click it, it's leaving outlines. I'm going to go ahead and we'll head over to the stroke. I'll expand the stroke a little bit more. It's keeping the appearances, keeping all the paths, but it's creating individual paths from everything that was intersecting. So that's outline and minus back. Let's move on to that. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. And exactly what you think is going to happen. This is the back object. It's going to be subtracted from the top object. So let's go ahead and do that. And that back object was subtracted from the top, leaving just the outer point. So I'll go ahead and reverse that so you can see everything that is the back object. It's going to be removed. When I select both, I hit that, it's going to remove it. So that is the minus back. So let's go ahead and move into shape modes. And again, these are pretty cool things. These can be non-destructive and keep appearances. So I'm going to go ahead and hit merge, or unite, I'm sorry, not merge. And what that did there was it actually created the merge shape without having to go through the changing of colors and what have you to apply the merge in a destructive way. I'm going to go ahead and hit undo. I'm going to hit Alt this time before I click the unite, and now you can see it created the shape, but it's actually a compound shape now. So I can move this out, and you'll see that it moves along and keeps that. You can expand it when you're done to solidify the change. So once you've created and you've moved things around and like, oh, okay, so I want this here and this here and this here. Once you're done and you want to, if you would like to make it, knock down so many paths so you don't have so many paths, all you have to do is hit expand. So I'm going to go ahead and hit undo and move this back to the original shape. You can see that it's still where it needs to be. I'll click them both, align them back together. Let's go ahead and we're going to minus the front. So what this is going to do, it's actually going to take the top object, which is the front object, and it's going to subtract it from the back object, and it's going to leave just these little red triangles everywhere, these little triangle shapes. Not everyone's going to be a triangle, but let's go ahead and click that. Whoops, I got to select them both and then click that, and did exactly that. So remember, that's destructive. You can see the expand option's now gone, so let's go ahead and hit Alt and click on that. It's going to do the same thing, but you'll notice the expand button's there for when you're ready to make it into a permanent decision. So you can see here with this, I can go back in, just like with the dumbbells, and move things around if I want to change the gaps and come up with some kind of interesting shapes. So that's that. Let's see here, we're back to the same two objects. Let's go ahead and click them both, and this time we're going to do intersect, and it's going to do exactly what crop does, but you're going to also have an option to exclude as well, so that you have the reversal of that when you're working in the shape mode. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Click them both, hit crop, and it creates that cog just like you would expect. I'm going to move back, and remember you have that alt option. So let's go ahead and hit the exclude, and it does the reverse, leaving these outer gaps as well. So we'll go ahead and hit both of those, and you can see the difference. So that in all, that's pretty much the Pathfinder. Later on I'll get into the Shape Builder tool, which is essentially an on-the-fly version of Pathfinder to create some pretty interesting shapes and kind of do things on the fly. But that's Pathfinder, and using objects to create new objects by subtracting an object from another one, or adding an object to another one, or combining them in all sorts of different ways. So I hope you found this pretty informational and took something from it. Like I say, each time practice makes perfect. Get in there, be brave, start messing around, and see what you can come up with. Look around at logos and see how they used a Pathfinder to create the shapes. Subtracting them from each other or adding them to each other. There's all sorts of things you can find within logos. So that's the Pathfinder. I thank you guys for watching. Please feel free to comment, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next video.